Hello, this is Heather with Creativity by Heather BE. Thank you so much for joining me today. I am going to be showing you how to create 5 simple backgrounds using basically just water and ink that you have swiped onto a piece of cardstock. I'm going to be using Simon Hurley Create products today, and I wanted to show you their newest release. This first stencil is called Sweater Weather. It's a great versatile stencil. You can create different patterns by just moving the stencil a little bit. The second one is Jumbo Poinsettia, and I love this one because you can it gives you versatility to create different shading. You can add different colors to the leaves, things like that. The next one is a background stamp, and this is called Swirly Ferns. And as with all of Simon Hurley Create's background stamps, they do come apart in pieces, which is really cool. The next one is called Tree Farm, and this one comes out in rows, but then you also have individual trees as well, which is really cool. The next is a stamp set, and this is called Posh Poinsettas, and I will be using one of the cardinals from the stamp set in our cards today. And you have, if you're not a big fan of coloring, this is a great set because there are solids included as well. The next one is called Brilliant Baubles, and this is a beautiful ornament, and you also have the string that comes down so you can have your ornaments hanging. It's very kind of throwback. It reminds me of like the 50s ornaments from the 50s. And then primarily we'll be using this stamp set today, and this is the adorable Snazzy Snowmen. I just love this stamp set, so cute. We will be using 3 of those images. There are also 3 new inks in this release. The first one is Midnight Snack, Fake Plant, and then Game Over. So you get some great Christmas colors in this release. For background number 1, we are going to be using the Swirly Ferns, and I'm also going to be using the Simon Hurley Create cardstock throughout this entire video. And I'm going to be applying my water using my Distress spray bottle. The ink that we're going to be using for this background is Overzealous. This is a really bright green. I love the color of this. I love how this one actually comes out. It's very bright and vivid. So what you're going to do for this technique is you are going to take your ink pad, and this can be any type of ink pad that reacts with water. So you could also do this with Distress Oxides, Distress inks. Some of the Hero Art inks react with water. And you are literally just going to swipe your ink pad across the paper. I will tell you, the more coverage that you can get, the better your background's going to come out. And also using darker or very bright colors seems to work better as well. So if you use like a really light pink, you might not get the same type of background, but I encourage you to try it. Try it with all of your different type of inks that react with water. I'm using my Ranger Clear Matte here, and I love this over top of my Altenew pad because I just sprayed water on it. I'm using my microfiber cloth and wiping up my mess because you do need something under it because you're going to get ink from swiping your ink pad. For the Swirly Ferns, for this background, I'm not going to take it apart. I'm actually going to just use the entire background as it is. Now, I know when you're doing traditional background stamping, some people like to take their background to their paper, so they might use a MISTI or some type of stamping tool, and some people like to take their paper to their background. I am traditionally the first, but with this technique, I think it's easier to bring your paper to your background. So I am generously spraying this with water, and you almost want it to kind of be, when you pick it up, it's going to drip off because you really want to be able to get that transfer. So once I have it inked up, watered up, I'm going to take my piece of paper and I'm going to hold it in place with one hand while I press it down very firmly with the other, because you don't want this to shift unless that's the look you're going for. You definitely could do that. I wanted to keep it as still as possible, and there you can see what just adding the water to that stamp pad does. You get this gorgeous background. The next one we're going to do, background number 2, I am using the Sweater Weather stencil, and this is going to be a great example to show you that when you first ink it up and add your water, It might not look that great. Let it dry. I'm going to show you what happens with this one once you let it dry. So I am using the stencil. I'm going to spray with water the part of the stencil that you would typically put down on your paper. So the face down on your paper. So basically the back of it, I guess if you want to say it that way. And once again, I'm going to generously spray this with water. And now I'm going to take my Remember Me is the ink that I used for this one. And I'm going to do the same thing. Just hold it in place and really rub that around. Now when I pull this up, you're going to see it honestly, it doesn't resemble that stencil at all. However, I'm going to set this to the side and I'm going to let it dry, and look what happens when it dries. You can really start to see where that popped through. You can see the design in it. You also have some of the water droplets, so be patient with them and let it dry. Okay, background number 3, I'm going to be using the Swirly Fern again. However, this time I'm going to remove some pieces. I'm also going to switch it up, and I'm not just going to use water this time. I'm going to use some Perfect Pearls in gold that I've added to a mini mister. And I get the Perfect Pearls and then I order the mini misters, or I pick them up at my local craft store. And I keep those, I add water to it, put some Perfect Pearls, and I keep those in the drawer next to my desk. So I always have them if I ever want to use it for a project. I am going to put my ink on my paper, and this time I'm going to use Crown Me. Now my ink pad, I use this one a lot. This is probably my favorite color of ink pad from Simon Hurley Create. So you can see I'm not getting the best coverage. Excuse me, I do have a re-inker on order, but it was not here. But I just kept adding, pushing to it and adding and going back over it, and I eventually will get that dark color that I want. I probably should have ordered a re-inker a long time ago because I love this color. This Crown Me is so gorgeous. So now I'm going to take my gold mini mister, and I thought the gold on top of that Crown Me, the purple, would be really pretty. I will tell you, when you add the Perfect Pearls into your mini mister, a little bit goes a long way because you don't want it to clog up the spray. So just a little bit, and then add some water, and if it's not dark enough, you can always go back and add more. So I'm spraying this directly onto my background, and I'm going to take my cardstock that has the Crown Me, and I'm just going to push that along wherever I have my background stamp. And then once I pick it up, look at that gorgeous gold that you get. So pretty. It's so elegant. I just love this background. And I am going to go in with my microfiber cloth and immediately wipe up that Perfect Pearls and get that off. And I will spray that with some water just to help get rid of it as well. Okay, moving on to background number 4. And you will see these backgrounds again. I'm going to pull them back in when I create cards with them. For this one, we're going to use Tree Farm, and I'm using Clear Skies ink. And this is probably my second favorite ink. I love the just blue, really dark, deep blue of this ink. And for this one, I'm going to actually be spraying just the regular Perfect Pearls. And I decided I wanted to take my stamp apart. So on this one, you actually have 3 pieces, and then you have trees that come out individually. And the 2 there at the top I'm about to pull off, those are connected. And I knew I didn't want those. But the piece at the top, I wanted to move towards the bottom. So I'm just rearranging these, and that's what I love about these background stamps. You can put them in any order you want. You could even bring in another background stamp from Simon Hurley Create that pulls apart and combine them. I mean, there's so much you can do with these, and I love background stamps, and the fact that Simon Hurley Create has them where they pull apart like this is just genius. It lets you stretch your product so much more. So now I'm going to have that empty space in the middle, and what I did is I just took my cardstock to measure it out and make sure it would be where I needed it to be, and now I'm just spraying it up with my Perfect Pearls. I'm going to take my cardstock, and remember this is the blue one, the Clear Skies. I'm going to lay that down, and I'm just going to press on the top and bottom where I have my background. Sorry for the camera moving there. I actually stand up to do this just to make sure I get really good pressure. And there you can see. Now, it doesn't look like much now. Once it dries, that white is really going to pop out. And I also decided that I wanted to add some extra little trees up in the top. So because some of the trees come out of this background, what I'm going to do is just kind of figure out where I want it, and I'm just going to spray it with regular water like we did the first couple backgrounds. I'm not going to use the Perfect Pearls, and I'm going to stamp that down in a couple places up at the top. So if you pull apart your stamp and you decide you want it somewhere else, the nice thing is there's little pieces that also come out. I could have also taken a strip and done the same thing if I wanted a whole row of trees up there. Or maybe I decided I didn't like it in the middle, that empty space. I could always take one of the strips and just redo it again. So I'm using my Wagner heat tool and heat setting this, and you can see how that white is really coming out now. It's amazing when you draw these backgrounds. And I decided what I wanted to do was take the Perfect Pearls and just spray it all over my background, just to give the entire thing some shine and shimmer. I'll take my very well-loved microfiber cloth, and there we go. So there's our background all ready for our stamped up images. For our final background, I decided to use the POW stencil. So this came out with a Mother's Day release, but when I was looking through my products, I thought it kind of almost looked like snowflakes, kind of wonky looking snowflakes. So I decided to go ahead and use it. This time I inked up my stencil, I wet my stencil, and I'm putting it on a piece of paper that has Crown Me on it, and I'm taking the stencil to the paper. And I'm able to kind of dab that up, and you'll see, once again, there's not much there, but once this is dried, you're going to see all of that pop out. And you can see as I'm drying it, it will come out and you really be able to see the the stencil pop out for you. If you have places that have too much water, you saw I took the cloth and I wiped that up. You can definitely, if there's any places where it kind of puddled and you don't want that look, just take your microfiber cloth or some type of cloth and pick that up. And there you can see as it's drying, all of that goodness popping out. It's almost like embossing. I love watching embossing powder when it melts, and it's kind of what these backgrounds are like. They don't look like anything until you heat set them or you set them off to actually dry. So this one I'm also decided to spray with some of the Perfect Pearls, and it's going to give this background a lot of shine. You're actually going to be able to see it pretty well when I pick it up here. There you can see the shine that it gets. So that's all of our backgrounds. So now I'm going to use those backgrounds and create cards. And off camera, I did color up some of the images from the Snazzy Snowmen, and also, as I said, the cardinal from the Posh Poinsettas. I love that gold one. That one actually ended up being one of my favorites. And you'll notice there on the right-hand side, that was actually empty. There was nothing there when I originally did it. When I went back and looked at it, I decided that I wanted something in that little spot. So I just took one of the pull-out pieces, sprayed it with the Perfect Pearls, the gold, and stamped it down there. So these are the pieces that I colored up. So I did the little melting snowman. I also did the adorable little bird up there, the snowman with the scarf, and we are going to add the design onto the scarf. I love the stamp set because there's so many extra pieces you can add on, and you can really create however you want with this. It's so much fun. For the first card, we're going to be using that tree farm background, and the snowman, I decided not to give him a hat or anything. I wanted him to be very simple. I am going to go back and add a little heart to him, and you'll see that in the final pictures. And I'm using my Misty here. I decided I didn't want to really have this card have much dimension except for the cardinal. So I'm using the VersaFine Onyx Black ink, and I'm just going to stamp my sentiment right onto the panel. And I'm using the sentiment, "There's nobody like you." I thought that would be cute with the little cardinal. This is the new Misty, and I have to say, I went back and forth on if I should order it, and I'm so glad I did. One of my favorite things about this new Misty is that the door doesn't just kind of fall shut on you. I know this is probably just a crazy comparison, but you know how like when you're going to the bathroom and you're putting the toilet seat down, it slips out of your hands and it just falls? That's how I felt like the Misty door always did to me. It just kind of dropped, and I love this one that it doesn't do that. So I am really loving the new Misty and glad I purchased it. So we added on our little cardinal, and there is our final card. I will go in and add a little bit of the tonic shimmer pen to him, and all of my cards will be put onto Nina Solar White 110-pound cardstock. To keep this video from not being so excessively long, I did cut that out, me actually putting these onto card bases. And there you go, just so cute. I love the little cardinal. And there you can see where I added the little heart, and I actually added honeybee little sequins is what his coal pieces were. So for the next card, I'm going to stamp the pattern from the scarf, and this is a stamp that comes with the stamp set. And you could use it, you could leave it just the same color, you could go in and create your own design. I love the fact that you have a choice here. And I'm going to be using the Crown Me background, so I decided to use Crown Me ink to add the kind of the pattern. It's almost like a gingham pattern almost to his scarf. And this will be fun because you could do this in school colors. You could do it in, like if you have a favorite sports team, you could go in and do it in different colors and do some really cute Christmas cards with that. I am using for this card the background where I use Crown Me and the POW stencil. So the one that actually is not a Christmas stencil, but we kind of made it into one. And I'm just using my Tim Holtz trimmer to cut that down. I did decide to mat this on a piece of Lawn Fawn Fog cardstock. Just thought it needed something a little bit behind it. And I'm going to give my snowman a little bit of dimension with some 3M foam tape. And I did create a sentiment which says sending warm hugs, and that is on some Hero Arts Pitch Black cardstock with alabaster, Brutus Monroe alabaster embossing powder. I have it lifted up actually on foam tape, and I'm going to rip that off and decide that I want it to be flat, kind of under his feet, so it gives more the illusion that he's actually standing on the sentiment. And for this sentiment, I did use the My Favorite Things sentiment banners, which if you see my videos, you know if I have a sentiment banner, that's probably what I used. And as always, I will have all of the products linked down below if you're interested in any of them. So I just used my Lawn Fawn glue tube, added some glue, and when I took the 3M foam tape off, it took some of the paper with it, so it was kind of flimsy. I really had to be careful with that. And in the final card you see, I do go back and add some of the yellow honeybee gems to him as well. I actually add them around him and one little one on the sentiment. And that is card number 2. And it's so fun because you could create these backgrounds and then just kind of set them aside and then go in at your leisure and color up stamps, you know, from different sets, and then go in and create all the cards at once. So you don't have to sit down and do all of this at one time. For the next card, I am using the Swirly Ferns, and I decided to use this green background with the melting snowman. And I went back and forth on if I should use one of the blue ones because it is a melted snowman. Although I live in Texas now, I am from Morgantown, West Virginia, and so we get snow. And I decided to go ahead and use the green one because if you live in a place where there's snow, it gets piled up. So if you have a snowman or you make an igloo or they've come through and they've shoveled it, when everything else melts, you still have those piles. So you might see the green grass, but you've got a snowman where it melted. And so that was my thinking with this one. So I could have put it on the blue background, but I kind of thought outside the box and added this green one. And let's be honest, I love this background. I really wanted to use this one. So I'm laying down my little melted snowman, and I added the sentiment that says, "You melt my heart." And then I'm adding the little bird, and I am going to give this little guy a googly eye because I just thought it was so cute. He's kind of standing in his little friend and wondering kind of what happened. And he is melted his heart. I am going to place this one onto the card base using my Lawn Fawn glue. I did want to show you how I do them on. Typically, I use a liquid glue because, as I said in videos before, I'm awful at getting it straight, and liquid glue is forgiving. It gives you a little bit of time to kind of move things around a little bit. I will occasionally use a tape runner and sometimes 3M foam tape, although if I use 3M foam tape, one trick that I learned from Jennifer McGuire, among many, is to go ahead and add some liquid glue onto your foam tape, and then you have that little bit of room to move as well. Okay, so for our final card, and you'll notice that we did 5 backgrounds, but I only made 5 cards. There's one background I did not use, and I'll just save that for later. So this one I am going to be using the Brilliant Baubles, and this is the one I spray with the Gold Perfect Pearls. And I chose one of the ornaments that actually had that same swirly fern design in it. And I'm going to use the Gilded by Brutus Monroe embossing powder to do this in gold. And then my sentiment I used is Joy to the World. And I'm going to also heat emboss that in gold. As I showed you in the beginning, the stamp set does come with a string that you can stamp or heat emboss and use like it's holding your ornament. And I am going to heat emboss that in Brutus Monroe Raven embossing powder. And there, it's just magical. When it's like it just all of a sudden, there it is. I love heat embossing. Little things make me very happy. And there you can see I have my string, and there was a little area that did not completely pick up the embossing powder, so I'm just using a Micron 0.3 black pen, and I just drew it in, so there you can't even tell. And that's the final card. So I really enjoyed making these backgrounds. I had so much fun going in and just experimenting and doing different things, and I hope that you'll give it a try as well. And that you'll also check out some of these Simon Hurley Create products. They're so versatile and so much fun. And as always, everything's linked below. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. And if you're not a subscriber, I hope you'll consider. Thank you so much and have a great day.